Hey everyone, it's Time Spiraled. We're back with another MSEM League here as we wrap up the July 2024 season. We've got Toastiferous back, still running 5-color human Podwatcher. So we're going to be able to see how that deck performs again today. And on the other side, we've got Aanginer here. Aanginer is running what appears to be... Oh, we've got a Tunu deck. Awesome. Looks to be Temur. Going to give us a chance to look over a few cards that we might not have seen. Rising Riots here. Slow, but will eventually take out one of your opponent's lands. So seeing some Ponza stuff here, which is quite interesting, because yesterday was also Ponza up against the same deck. But this one seems like a different build, so very interesting to see what the picks will be. So Aanginer starts us off with a Magmatic Torrent, fetching into a Rampant Summit, which is probably going to allow one of these Rising Riots to get dropped. You want those as early as possible because the Vanishing 3 does take some time, and seeing them in a few turns is a bit slow. But it's good to have them here on turn 1. Toast, on the other hand, playing out Secluded Courtyards, playing out Humble Abodes, naming humans. Running out Channeler of the Veil. Going to create a 1/1 colorless construct. Channeler, of course, the all-important sack outlet for this deck's combo. If you didn't get a chance to catch yesterday's video, we're going to be digging for the card God Watcher, and that's going to allow our players to... Here, let me just make this a little bit bigger for all of you. I think that's going to make it nice and neat. You can still keep an eye here on the chat, but at least the cards will be a little bit easier to read. They're a little small on the board themselves. So, bringing out both mana ascetics here on turn 2 for Aanginer. Going to have a lot of mana to play with next turn. Toast drawing into a lot of lands here. Only so much you can do. Bustling Marketplace. Essentially just a reflecting pool. You can ignore the rest of the text on this card. It was primarily designed for a multiplayer set where players could activate that second activated ability here and essentially give Bustling Marketplace's controller, or well, owner, a card, and you would get to take it. I haven't seen anybody in 1v1 make that deal yet. So you can just look at the add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. That's the only part that's relevant here. We have cards like What Lurks Beyond, which are sort of Neoform chains where you sack creatures and you get to search library, hand, or graveyard for cards that cost 1 more and put it onto the battlefield. And in the case of Selective Breeding, X more, as long as you're sacrificing a creature that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature. Bustling Marketplace is going to come down essentially as a gold land here, seeing as the other ones can add mana of any color. Now the question is, do you spend one of these to start going up the chain off your Channeler? Because you need a Channeler at the end to have the sack ability. Kind of a big thinking moment here. We're going to blink over just for a second over here to deck, just so I can give you all a chance to see what we're working with. This is God Watcher. That's a 2 blue 1/4 human. When it enters, you search any player's library for a creature card, exile it, then they shuffle. And when it dies, you get the exiled card onto the battlefield under your control. So when you combine it with cards like Dark Behemoth here, that when they die, you bring back another creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And as long as you have a sack outlet, you got a big loop going on here. Alright, Toast still in the tank here. Unfortunately, League, unlike GP, does not give me access to players' deck lists until their League run is done. That's a good thing. It just means that it's a little harder for me to tell you explicitly what the cards are in here. So, Selective Breeding, I'm going to be sacrificing Channeler of the Veil. And we're just going to ask to call X equals, just because, you know, it's important. I mean, good practice for the players running these decks to call out the stuff. So Sacrificing Channeler of the Veil, able to get something that costs 4. We're picking up an Ascended Explorer here, which you might realize says return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that's going to bring Channeler of the Veil right back onto the battlefield, making another construct. Now that we have 2 bodies, we're able to turn that Ascended Explorer into Godwatcher. And the fact that you can do it with selective breeding, because as a human angel, it does share a creature type. So you'll be able to fetch out a Godwatcher and then start the combo. Godwatcher is going to fetch Dark Behemoth. You're then going to sacrifice the Godwatcher to Channeler of the Veil. Behemoth is going to pick up Godwatcher. You're going to get your other one, and that's going to be it. What you need to do on this side here, is you got to find a way to get that Channeler of the Veil off the field. Not that it's, Okay, we've got Tunu coming down here. Tunu is a really nice big red planeswalker. Gives all your mountains tap, add red, red. It exiles the top cards, and you can play those cards until the end of your next turn. And then the -2 is pretty spicy. It conjures 6 Scorches, and then you draw 2 cards off of it. For those of you who don't know, Scorch is our format's Lightning Bolt. It's a sorcery speed bolt. So, perfectly playable. And adding 6 of them to your deck is definitely exciting. Toes over here drawing into another land, but with Channeler out here, this should be it. Of course, the deck is very strong, but taking out the pieces that, the Channelers, taking out Ascended Explorer, any piece of removal here would have done a lot. Would have been able to disrupt these sort of like tutor chains going. What Lurks Beyond is nice because it does let you go for hand or graveyard, but it does have to have 1 greater mana value, so that can limit some things sometimes. Selective Breeding, because it's X+, you can sometimes get the same mana value less than or equal, lets you go sometimes smaller. So, I assume we're just gonna run out for the win here, unless I have... Yeah, okay. So, the board's a bunch of 0/1s. We're going to throw everything in here. I don't know why Tunu just got tapped, but I'm assuming that's just a double click. It would be a very interesting world where we had, Planeswalker tap abilities. Don't think that would be particularly fun or balanced, but, Alright, so went for the swing. Moving on to the second main. Got value out of the board just in case. A mana ascetic open, but it doesn't have... Pretty sure this mana ascetic was played out last turn, so I don't think that mana ascetic can... let's see, we had Tunu come in, and then mana ascetic was played off the top, so it's not able to tap for anything right now, so Aanginer is tapped out. I'm assuming we're going to see... Oh. Okay, Bustling Marketplace. There we go. So, again, Humble Abode can't add color for certain things, but there we go. Tapping for green, cracking the Channeler of the Veil. X is 0. Interesting. Just checking. Maybe Toast has forgotten that the mana ascetic is summoning sickness. There's nothing coming out of Aanginer's hand right now. So Channeler of the Veil getting sacrificed. Oh, okay. Confining Priest. You do need to respect that the opponent might have cards like Shikai's Readout. And if this is what's happening, I appreciate the play around. Shikai's Readout is a free land that if you discard it, you can exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. So if you're winning on the beatdown, I do think that this is an incorrect. You play out your Confining Priest. That Confining Priest, when it's going to get removed, the Ascended Explorer is going to come back. So you're kind of extending up your combo chain here. We're going to see Anarchy Storm, though. Destroys a non-basic land, and then it has a bound. I'm assuming it's going to take out the coveted tower. I don't know why we're... Interesting. Oh, the Magmatic Torrent came into play tap. For a second, I'm like, why are we tapping this? That's my fault. I'm missing a few pieces here as I'm looking around at certain stuff. So, okay, having a bit of a thing. So, no, it went after the Courtyard, which is interesting. The Abound off of Anarchy Storm lets you cast a spell that costs less from it than your hand. So that brings out Thriving Budling, which is another mana dork. And at the beginning of your end step, if you've managed to spend white, blue, black, red, green, so your full Wooburg to cast spells, you get to untap it and put 3 counters. So eventually, it's going to go big. So lots of mana dorks, lots of land destruction. We had a Tunu there that got unfortunately punched out. Wonder if it might have been a good idea to throw maybe one of these mana aesthetics into protecting the Tunu just for the value, but that's alright. Toast playing out a Nebula of Empty Gold. Fantastic card. Lets you be very flexible with your colors. You're either picking 2, 3, 4, or 5 colors, but you, of course, you lose life equal to the number of colors chosen this way. And you'll always lose at least 2 life. So it's not like a shock land where you can just let that run. So what lurks beyond here? See, this is why I think maybe taking out that coveted tower could have been important. Humble Abode can't tap for green unless it's for humans. So what lurks beyond is going to sacrifice the Confining Priest. Going to go get a creature that costs 3, which is going to be Ancestral Council, which will then, of course, search your library for an instant or sorcery with mana value 2 or less. Now, Ascended Explorer also re-enters the battlefield and brings back Confining Priest. And Confining Priest is going to do the same thing and is going to simply tuck itself. And we fetched a Selective Breeding off of the Ancestral Council. So a lot of tutor chains. The pieces tend to find each other. Aanginer running a little bit on empty here, just drawing these lands. Not much to do, and mana ascetics are great for the mana, but not so great for attacking. One more turn here for Toast. Toast is going to be able to... Now, an important thing here now is Aanginer's hand is empty, which means there's no Shikai's Readout in the hand. So we're going to see Selective Breeding, X equals 0. I'm assuming this is going to go for the Confining Priest. Fetches out the Channeler of the Veil. Channeler's going to enter. Ascended Explorer is going to re-trigger. Confining Priest is going to, once again, hook that Ascended Explorer, and then Channel of the Veil is going to make another token. Channeler of the Veil is now going to sacrifice the Confining Priest, and you might notice that now that Ascended Explorer re-enters, it's going to go fetch back Confining Priest, and we found ourselves one more loop. I think Toast is just demonstrating that, there we go, okay, saying, hey, I'm just going to do this 14 more times. So having multiple ways of pulling off the combo is fantastic. You don't always have to go with Godwatcher, Dark Behemoth. This one has, the pieces tend to be a little easier to remove. Dark Behemoth having Indestructible means sometimes you really have to put in the Exile. But, you know, 1 point of toughness on a lot of these. Any form of removal would have been really important here. So that's a wrap on game 1. We're going to see sideboarding. Again, unfortunately, we're in League, so League doesn't have access to sideboards here. So in the meantime, we just might want to run through, see if there's any cards that I didn't get a chance to pop up. Nope, I think I mouse over most of the cards that were in both players' hands. I guess I didn't mouse over Shardstone Rift, but just the black-red version of the Shock Fetches. So a little bit different from what you might be expecting from Modern, where they have the regular fetches. Here in MSEM, the Shock Fetches essentially replace those. So You pay 2 life instead of the 1 to get an untap, but at the same time, you can always leave them tapped. So late game, as you draw them, you can always just tap them in, which costs a little less on the old life there. I think I've checked everything else. Yeah, seems like it. Let's see if our players are almost ready. Some are ready, not ready, ready. So there's a little thinking going on here in the sideboard. Hopefully we see a little more removal out of Aanginer's hand for this game too. It's going to make a big difference. So, all right, what do we have here? So yeah, bringing in cards like Miss Margaret Barton, making sure that your opponent's non-creatures are costing 1 more. Really good against cards that have Abound, because you're taxing the first half and the back half, which was relevant if you go and catch our last league match. Aanginer is going to be on the play here. Keeping a hand of 6 versus Tosu's on a hand of 7. We have a Magmatic Torrent. Cracking from a Rampant Summit, we're going to see Hierarch Ranger, one of our formats. Other very strong mana dorks. Its ability to encourage and make creatures a little stronger is definitely nice. And at a base, it taps for green, but apologies, you can also add 1 mana of any color. We've got Secluded Courtyard coming out here, naming Human, not surprising. Another card here, Banishing Initiate, can exile non-land permanents you don't control until it leaves the battlefield, but if it exiled something with mana value 3 or greater, you'll have to sacrifice Banishing Initiate. Fantastic card. And because it hits non-land permanents, it's able to go after quite a lot of Aanginer's board here. So we've got 3 mana. I'm assuming this is going to be a 10 to the Grove. It has Cascade. He's going to create a tapped, colorless Mountain Forest land token. So high chance that either hits a mana dork. Yeah. So that Belling's going to come into the battlefield, and we're going to get a lovely token land. MSEM has a few cards that create these land tokens. They don't conjure, they create, so they're tokens. But the ramping is huge. We're already at 5 mana, and then we've got Thriving Budlings. We're going to see Miss Margaret Barton being run out. Non-creature spells are going to cost 1 more to cast. And if ever Toast gets up to 4 mana and finds the time, that can switch into Dr. Gareth Barton, which simply makes all your spells your opponents cast cost 1 more, and all your spells cost 1 less. So if ever you've played against Grand Arbiter and Cannon, you kind of know what we're going with for. We've got Mena Al-Mijat being played out here, so Mena does have removal. Her -2 is a 3 damage to target creature, and of course, if it would die, it gets exiled, which is relevant in a deck that players commenting that they've never seen this card. I've seen this card. It doesn't see a lot of play, but it is quite interesting. It was an expensive bolt, but sometimes you just got to get rid of the things that are stopping you from playing the game. Witch Queen's in hand. So Witch Queen's is a big one. The fact that it's got +2, can hit 2 damage to each of up to 2 targets is very good. The -3, though, is fantastic. You gain control of a target land and you untap it. So if you take away all your opponent's land... So yeah, Aanginer says, yeah, I'm going to Ponza some of your lands and then hopefully card advantage and win. So we'll see how this plays out. We're up to 3 mana here on Toast side of the field. Drew into an Anran's Radical, which lets you enter, discard a card. If you do, you get to search up a card that costs mana value 5 or greater, or that has X in its cost. So honestly, super perfect for this deck. Fetches both Selective Breeding and which pretty much is what you need. So there we go. So Anran's Radical. I don't believe I saw a card that had a mana value 5 or greater. I believe Dark Behemoth. But we're going to pitch the Banishing Initiate. We're going to go for the Tutor. I'm assuming the X spell of choice is selective breeding. Yeah, there we go. And of course, it being a human means it can easily be part of the chain. So, alright. So remember, this can't tap for the green, so if for some reason we're able to get rid of all these bustling marketplaces, it's going to make a big difference. Of course, clearing the field also makes a big difference against this sort of deck. So Witch Queens, actually the +2 here is what looks, I think, the most interesting. Being able to take out the Radical and the Ranger means confining priest, selective breeding. Yeah, there we go. So clearing it up. And of course, if you look at the ultimate, by the way, -9 could happen as soon as 2 turns later. Each player would pitch their hand, draw 7 cards, and then the Witch Queens would deal damage to each opponent equal to twice the number of cards they've drawn this turn. So they get to choose. They can choose to draw nothing and take no damage, or they could draw 1, 2, or 3, but then take anywhere from 2, 4, or 6 damage. So probably not what I think Aanginer is going to go towards, unless they really want to refill a 7. That +2 damage, that 2 damage for both is quite good here, being able to clear. But Nebula of Empty Gold here. Is this 5-color Nebula? Yeah, okay. So we're Wooburging Nebula. Aanginer saying that their life's goal has been accomplished, so very proud of that. It's always fun when the deck that you built manages to pop off with the one reason you built it, right? Toe says they messed up, so let's see what happens. Oh well, it's okay. That's a good answer. Oh well, like, you can still play it out. There's still stuff here. 2 Bustlings, playing out Channeler of the Veil, Construct. Tapping for 2. Is this going to be... Oh, no, just sacrificing. Yeah. Each opponent loses a life. And then Confining Priest is going to exile Channeler of the Veil. And with the 3 toughness, means that you can't use Witch Queens against it. So, of course, Witch Queens could just take that Nebula of Empty Gold there. So we'll see what happens. We've got but we have a Mena in hand. Mena able to deal 3 damage to a creature and exile it is good here. Which oh no, went for the exile. Okay, interesting. I would have assumed that would have been an immediate 3 damage, but perhaps I'm wrong. Plays the Magmatic Torrent from Mena's Impulse. Now the question is Witch Queen's going to ding, or are we going to start taking their lands? Because now that you're at 8, if you take the Nebula, if you start taking these bustling marketplaces and Nebulas, eventually you kind of run out of stuff to do. We'll see. And we'll see what the plan is. Yeah, the 3 toughness on that Confining Priest, not what you wanted to see with Witch Queens as your removal target here. Able to keep that Channeler protected, but... So Hierarch Ranger is going to encourage, going to make Thriving Buddling a 1/2. And Buddling can just chip in, because if Confining Priest blocks, well, there goes Confining Priest. So the 1-tick clock has begun. Oh, hold up. Yeah. There we go. What happened? I don't see what's... Sorry, this is a little confusing here. Witch Queen's being, like, tapped and repinged, and I just want to... I'm just going to let them know that you can right-click to remove arrows. Okay, I assumed it was going to be Priest in face, so... 2 damage to Priest, doesn't do anything though, but 2 damage to Toast Face, so a little bit of clock. Anyway, when you pass the phase, the arrow's clear, so that's going to be fine. Cockatrice is a fantastic engine. There's just a few little things to learn. And yeah, the fact that you can right-click on arrows helps a lot. So, and of course, passing the phase just advances it. So let's see what's the draw here. Another land. Probably not Ponzaing Toast anymore between all the secluded courtyards and lands here. So let's see. Again, lots of lines. It could be selective breeding is going to crack Confining Priest, and then I believe all you have to do is find X would have to be what? X would have to be 2, and then you go and fetch the Human Angel, and then that Human Angel brings back Confining Priest, and then I believe with Channeler of the Veil on the field here, I believe that's a win. Yep. All right. So I haven't played the deck much. I haven't played the deck personally, and there's a lot of lines. So, but here we go. So Confining Priest being the sacrifice target, Ascended Explorer. Ascended Explorer is going to get back Confining Priest, and Confining Priest is going to exile Ascended Explorer. Now, it could be that the card in hand here is a Shikai's Readout, but in this case it isn't. So Ascended Explorer is going to come back and get Confining Priest. Nicely took away the Explorer, and then Channeler of the Veil, yeah, there we go, is going to redo its thing. Alright, and that was another league match. Hopefully a few more get played today. I have quite a bit of time this morning to run out a few of these, so, yeah. Toast saying I was scared you were going to remove the Priest. Yeah, it would have totally screwed me up. But sometimes you don't see the line, and if you're low on cards, maybe you tunnel into the I'm running low on cards and I need to find an answer when maybe the answer is just giving up that walker. Alright, we're going to let these players talk it out. I hope you've enjoyed another league match, and as always, we'll see you soon. Have a good one.